will pay the bill? I always ask this question because particularly for the developing countries, the infrastructure change means a huge cost to them, particularly at this time of a pandemic. So how will the international community, particularly with COP26, be able to deal with these problems?
Well, I mean, just as an example, we know that there are something like 800 million people still lacking access to electricity. And if you were to extend electricity grids to them, not only would you be doing that using very carbon-intensive technologies such as coal or gas-fired power stations, but you'd also be providing them with quite unreliable electricity access. Now, we have alternatives now. We have off-grid solutions or mini-grids based on solar, wind, batteries, renewable systems, and they are actually in many cases proving more reliable, and they're coming down in cost. We need to get the financing and business models right. And so I think that leads on to my second quick point, which is how is this going to be funded? And that, of course, is on the table for COP26,
Right.
This 100 billion of international finance. And we do need to see that flow, and we do need to see that grow, because emerging and developing countries can't do this on their own. They do need considerable support from the industrialized countries to really walk the walk now and provide them with that
I don't want to be the one that provides the bad news, but ladies and gentlemen, we need to look at the reality. Some of the earlier bills already promised by earlier conferences have not been paid to the developing countries when they are trying to do their infrastructure transformation. So how can we trust the COP26 be able to do that?
Yes, I think it's a very good question. And certainly there are tremendous debts that still need to be paid by the developed countries, because certainly we are the most responsible for the problem. On the other hand, I think what's also important to say is, or to see, is not always only focus on these costs, this new cost, because especially in developing countries, there's this tremendous infrastructure development going to take place in any case. Also in the developed countries, but especially in developing countries. Simply the question is this infrastructure going to be developed in the 20th century way or more in the 21st century way? It's also a question of finance, but also a question of technology transfer or just innovation.
Absolutely.
And I think we should approach it a little bit from this perspective.
And is it in fact the case that the consumer will just pay at the end of the day? It's just going to get more expensive for us?
Consumers have to pay. I think everyone has to pay. And so it's pricing or a cost of transition that has to be shared by everyone, government, business, individuals, all in. There's no other way. So because we all consumers, we're all contributing to the increasing of carbons there. By saying that, I do want to direct it to the positive side. I think the ball is already rolling. If you look at the last year in particular, if you look at the newly installed energy capacity, 90% of them globally is renewable energy, not fossil fuel energy there. If you look at the role of China, China literally has been playing its role in terms of industrializing or manufacturing the products, equipments, and units. 70% solar and wind units produced by China, and 50% of the electric vehicles last year brought on the market from China. If you look at the batteries supplied, 70% globally to China. So in a nutshell, I think, yes, it's complicated with all the short-term disruptions. We have to bear with that. In the meantime, actually, we do need to look into the more promising future. The ball is already rolling.